As we saw in the first episode of the Folklore Isles series on the channel, the British Isles is home to a range of myths and creatures. Featured in that video were two legendary beasts from the West Country, prowling the moors and terrorising locals, stalking their way into the zeitgeist. Both revolve around the phenomena of big cats in Britain, or, more scientifically, alien cats. Whether they are released exotic pets, or a surviving population from a bygone era, all across the nation, there are stories of big cats, even in my home county. Tonight, we tread out into the wild places of Britain in search of apex predators as we step into the unknown. Previously on Unknown, we tend to look at the subject of the video, be it stories or history, and then explore the reality of it. This time around, I'd like to do the reverse. As we get our fangs stuck into this topic, it is probably best we take a look at what exactly constitutes a big cat. To state the obvious, it is in the name. Big cats are, well, big cats. There is a clear distinction between the pocket-sized predators living in our homes compared to their cousins chasing down zebras in the African savannah. It seems that there is some debate whether there are 5 or 7 big cats, whether the term should only account for those in the genus Panthera, or the extended family of Pantherinae. How about what noises the animals make? One way to categorize these felines is whether they roar or purr. As you can imagine, tigers, lions, jaguars and leopards roar instead of purring. Although, this isn't a hard and fast rule either. Snow leopards, generally considered the big cats, can't roar. So if size and sound isn't a surefire way to classify a tiger from a tabby, what else can we look at? How about the role a cat fills in its environment? Comparatively, cheetahs are on the smaller side of big cats, but they're apex predators, a position the other historical big cats assume. As an aside, cheetahs don't roar but purr, which is a trait traditionally associated with small cats. And then there's where to actually draw the line between big and small. Lynx, for example, are a species of small cats that can in some circumstances reach the same size and weights of certain species of big cats. This argument probably comes down to personal preference. I'm sure there's a clearer way, perhaps with genetics and family trees, to group cats together, be they big or small or medium. For the purpose of this video, I think it best to use the term big cat in its traditional sense, in relation to species such as leopards and panthers. Now we've navigated the muddy waters of what is or isn't a big cat. Don't worry, I can hear you typing in the comments to say I didn't help in any way. Let's take a look at whether the British Isles were ever home to big cats. This answer is a lot more clear-cut. Yes. One of the more recent extinctions of wildcats, note the change in terminology here, is the Eurasian lynx. Through analysis, it is generally thought the lynx went extinct sometime over 1,000 years ago. However, it is possible the lynx continued as recently as the 17 or 1800s. Of course, the Eurasian lynx isn't extinct completely, though at one stage it might have been. Conservation projects have seen population increases which, in turn, have saved this species, and there are even projects to rewild them in Britain. A more prehistoric species of cat also called this part of the world home as well. The Eurasian cave lion was common throughout Britain and Europe for over 400,000 years. This species of cat is thought to be one of, if not the, largest species to have ever lived. Unlike their modern African cousins, male cave lions did not have manes. Remains of other prehistoric cats have been found in Britain as well. Notably, a species of scimitar-toothed cat found across southern England as well as Europe as a whole. Changing climates and new competition is thought to have seen the demise of these ancient cats, as with all the megafauna from the Ice Age. Now for the fun part of the video, the whole reason you clicked on it in the first place. Previously, we have talked about the Beast of Bodmin Moor and the Beast of Exmoor, quite possibly the most infamous cases of alien big cats. In recap, 2 distinct sets of sightings in the counties of Cornwall and Devon, with hundreds of sightings culminating in a government investigation, and even military intervention. Are there other stories of encounters or even historic tales of alien big cats? Cath Palig is a monstrous beast from Welsh mythology that also has ties to Arthurian legend. Said to have been born in Gwynedd, Cath Palig terrorised Anglesey until one of King Arthur's knights slew the beast. Like many myths, there are probably grains of truth in there somewhere. Is it possible this is a remembered tale from long before the poems told of this encounter? Moving to the south of England, there are tales of red lions in the New Forest. Notably, the Stratford lion, which was supposedly pulled from the ground by John Stratford in the early 1400s. The beast's description was as giant and red, huge teeth, and the rack of antlers like that of an elk. Quite the appearance. A pub in the small village of Baldry, near to where this occurred, is called the Red Lion. Sightings of this curious legend even persisted into the 20th century. Earlier, I mentioned lynx still being spotted and talked about in Britain far later than they were thought to have gone extinct in this part of their historic range. This is primarily based on the accounts of William Cobbett. As a child in western Surrey, he records seeing a large cat on the grounds of Waverley Abbey. It was only years later, when in Canada, he saw the creature again. What he saw then was a Canadian lynx. Though it seems unlikely the exact species he saw as a boy was a Canadian lynx, it was most likely a Eurasian lynx, if what he saw as a child was correct. It seems that alien cats have been a part of the culture and history of Britain for as long as people have dwelled here. Early humans would probably have had to contend with lynx, and possibly cave lions, for centuries until they died out. Like most folklore and myth, it is probably these events being passed down through generational time that has seeped into the cultural consciousness. Not all alien big cats in Britain are tall tales. Wild cats of all sizes have actually been found alive and dead throughout the 1900s alone. From Canadian lynx being shot, or pumas captured in the 80s, all of them were most likely escaped or released exotic pets. For a time, and even still today, the ownership of large cats was seen as very alluring amid the exotic pet trade. However, with the introduction of the Dangerous Wild Animals Act 1976, which clamped down on this ownership, this all seemed to change. It is not surprising to see an uptick in sightings around this time. Cue the Beast of Bodmin Moor or the Beast of Exmoor. In the summer of 2012, a sensational headline came out from East Anglia revolving around a lion spotted in Essex. For those of you less versed in this topic, a lion being reported is quite rare. Most of these sightings are attributed to leopards, panthers and pumas. As you can imagine, this sparks an immediate police investigation. However, with no evidence ever found, it was believed this photograph, the only image of the Essex lion, belongs to a local Maine Coon named Teddy Bear. Jumping back to the 60s now, with stories of a puma on the loose in Surrey. Not only is this interesting as it's the same area of England as the William Cobbett sighting, but, more importantly, it's where I'm from. The first reported sighting came in 1964, and by 1966 Surrey police had received over 350 reports or sightings. The Surrey puma persists even to this day, which, if correct, would suggest a breeding population. A sobering thought for a county as populous as Surrey. That would lend itself to the idea of continued sightings of big cats all throughout Britain throughout the decades. Very little physical evidence exists across the board, and any photographic proof, as is often the case, is poor quality or doesn't truly lend itself for a great analysis of scale. In fact, most of what you will see online do appear to simply be house cats. There's no doubt that individual big cats have been released or escaped into the wilds of Britain, some more recent than others. It seems a large bulk of these happened during the 20th century, when ownership of these animals was allowed and then when it became tightly controlled. Perhaps even enough of these cats found themselves out of captivity long enough to find each other and breed. That's a long stretch of a maybe, by the way. This original generation, or generations, have probably informed many of the sightings seen in more recent times. Misidentifying animals, or having your mind fill in the blank when you see something slinking through long grass out the corner of an eye. With future rewilding projects ongoing, it seems likely that Britain will one day be home to big cats again. It would be remiss of me not to mention the wild cat, which is on the verge of extinction here in Britain. Whether it's myths or remnant populations from eons past, when you're on the moors or walking through the woods, it isn't just aliens of the extraterrestrial variety you need be looking for. Beware the phantom big cats of Britain the next time you step into the unknown.